welcome to another episode of Building a Leadership Mindset podcast. I'm your host, Nikki C. Super excited to be here today. Oh, I forgot. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which is usually in my intro. But we never do the same thing twice. Everything is different and we have choices to make changes. So welcome to all our listeners. Super excited about the guest that we have today. Some great information coming your way. First, we want to send a super huge shout out to our sponsors, Jose Escobar with the Connected Leaders Academy. We have Noah and Julie with Breathe Capital Planning, and we have Patrick Rude with the Dirty Little Secret Society. Super excited for what they have going on. Thank you guys so much for your continued support and what we do here at Bomb Global. And if you want to know what they do and how you can get connected with them, you definitely want to jump on our website at www.buildingaleadershipmindset.com with all of the other amazing things we have going on in 2024, and you can book a call right there with us to even get on the show. So thank you again for joining us. We have an amazing guest, which I met through a mutual connection, and she was actually here on our podcast before in a collaborative space where we had some information on like media and branding and all that good stuff, and really getting your vision and your message out there within your branding for your business. So that was a group discussion, but now we have her here with us, giving us her gifts and talents and what she went through to get to where she's at today. And she is none other than Abigail Lague, is the owner and founder of Flaire, a commercial photography and videography company based in Washington, D.C. With a background in branding and marketing, Abby started Flaire in order to provide high quality imagery to businesses looking to show up for their customers and stand out in a saturated market. What started as a one-man effort is now a team of creative experts ready to help bring brands to life. They don't believe that business has a, hold on, let me go back. They don't believe that business has to mean boring, and everything they do with a touch of creative flair. Without further ado, let me bring up our guest, Abigail. Welcome. How are you?
Hello. I'm good. How are you?
I am well. Thank you so much for saying yes and for letting me know that this is your first podcast. Well, actually your
Yeah, so
second, but your
please be
first,
nice.
like, what was that?
Oh yeah, no, I was saying please take it easy on me. It was easier last time I was on because at least there was like 3 other people I could hide behind. So when it's just me, oh my gosh.
Yes, this is all about you and what you do and how you got to where you're at today. And I am just a huge fan because photography is one of my passions as well. In high school, I actually like did the whole thing, like how to develop, how to do the black room, or the what do they call it?
Oh,
Is
the
it the
dark
black room?
room?
The dark room,
Yes.
and messing with the liquids and getting that image on that photo, when to stop, when to kind of add some stuff. It was amazing.
Oh,
But
you're
we
more
won't go.
advanced than me then.
Oh, wow. So yours is just capturing the moments, which I
Mhm.
absolutely love.
Yeah,
And we'll get
all
into,
digital.
yeah, so we'll definitely get into that. But tell us, Abigail, where are you from? How was your upbringing? Tell us a little bit about your background and how did you stumble upon this great passion you have?
Yeah, so I am from just outside the DC area. I did the sort of normal standard path that everyone kind of tells you to do, where you try very hard in high school, you do all the extracurriculars, you go to college, and then you do like your corporate job. And so that's what I did. And the longer I was on that path, the less I thought it was for me. As part of my master's degree, I got to live in Spain for a year, which was really, really cool. I got to learn a lot about marketing. And as part of that, they had photography classes, which sort of started what was a very fun but very expensive hobby. Because once you buy your first camera, you kind of start looking into other things, and you're like, oh, well, this will make my photography better. And so then you're a couple $1,000s in, right? And then once you have all of that you've put into something, it sort of becomes a little bit of an obsession. It's definitely a passion. And so sorry, I have a cat in the room.
You're
um,
good.
and she will knock things off. But yeah, so I got really, really into photography from my master's, also from traveling, just because, you want to capture those memories of all the beautiful places that you were lucky enough to go to. And photography stayed a hobby until I had my corporate job in marketing, and then COVID happened. And I think everyone sort of had their COVID hobby because suddenly you had so much time on your hands. You didn't have to leave to go to the office. And I got more and more into it. And I was that weirdo who was in my backyard taking photos of rabbits, because I thought that was like the height of like wildlife photography at the time. So I was like chasing rabbits around. My neighbors thought we were weird. And then I had a friend ask to do like get some photos. She was a Instagram, like a bookstagram, like influencer. She wanted some photos of her surrounded by floating books that I guess was a trend at the time. And from there, just more and more people started asking me to do photos. And eventually I was like, oh, I should probably charge for this. So then I would do like a 4-hour shoot for $50. Um, and from there, yeah, I feel like a lot of people have been there where they're like, well, I don't think I'm good enough to actually charge real money. Yeah, and from there it just sort of grew, and I was doing any type of photography, that, weddings, portraits, families, some branding. And I realized, like, with my marketing background, I kind of want to keep using that because I do love marketing and branding, and just combine that with photography. So here we are, commercial photography. And I've been doing that for the last 3 or so years. And it's been amazing just being able to work with so many amazing businesses, and a lot of small businesses, and like female entrepreneurs who are trying to get their passion off the ground. So yeah, it's just been an amazing experience. So that was the long version of the story.
That's so good. Well, we have lots of time here to get to know who you are, Abigail, and that's exactly what we want, right? We're going to have conversation, and I pulled out something really important that you said with that. Just to first say, see your transition in each step, and finding that every new season there was something new that caught your eye, that you maybe you didn't automatically say it, but I feel like
Hmm.
you asked yourself, like, is this for me? Am I enjoying this? Can I do this? Can I make it a business? You took that that passion and you said, okay, let me start charging, right? And sometimes we don't know. We just go ahead and do it, and we try it. And I love that you did. And yes, and you also said something very, very important that I see every day is the pricing. Like, what are we charging? Because we
Hmm.
don't know what we don't know, right? And always when we go out in the beginning, we're always undercharging. That's an automatic. We're not market researching the amount, the photographers are getting paid, or
Hmm.
whatever your industry is, right? What is the average? What is the high end of it? What is the low end of it? Did you have, at what point did you, in your journey, did you say, okay, wait, I need to know where my price
Hmm.
point is?
That is funny because it was never me that realized it. Maybe I'm slow. It was after I started getting out there and really networking, I made a lot of other, friendships and connections in the industry, who took a look at my pricing and said, what are you doing? So having photographer friends has been essential, even if they don't have the same specialty as me. But they've been very good at taking a look at what I'm doing and saying, okay, so you need to charge more. You need to stop including all of this in a small price point. There's different types of fees associated with photography. It could be a sitting fee, just to pay for like the actual photography. And then there's like the fee to pay for the photos on top of it. And then there could be licensing fees. So when you first start out, it's very easy to just go, well, I don't think I'm good. Or I think there's so many better people out there and I'm new. So $50 for 20 hours of my time, which is not a good business practice. But once you start surrounding yourself with others in the industry, not only are you helping advance yourself as a photographer or whatever your specialty is, it's not just photography. You get better at what you do because you're learning from other people, not only for whatever your specific skill set is, but as a business owner in general. Because they are running their own businesses. They've run into maybe the same issues you run into or issues you're about to run into, and they can, help you correct course of it so you don't make the same mistakes. So that's just been one of the biggest things for me is meeting other people and growing my business for like on the client perspective, but also growing myself as a business owner.
That's so powerful. And that's really the only step that some of us can possibly be missing, is that we're not reaching out to those that have already um, been through it, right? That are successful. And, I just recorded another podcast before this and same concept. So it's just a repeat of what the common themes that we're seeing in the entrepreneurial space when it comes to pricing, and when it also comes to networking. Like, the growth really happens when you start to connect yourself with other people and get other vantage points and
Mhm.
viewpoints. Do you have a coach by any chance?
I don't have a coach. I have always sort of felt like I probably should. A lot of my connections in the industry have become default coach. Also, the good old coach called YouTube. Um, but yeah, it's definitely, I, being a hypocrite here, think is a good investment that I have not made, but I do believe in it.
Awesome. And that's okay. That's okay. Some people don't need to do that right away, right? Some people, I mean, if they're stuck and they see that the it organically happened for you and you learned along the way and you still connected yourself, maybe not with a coach or with a mentor, but you connected yourself with the right people that was able to say, hey, give you some advice, kind of steer you certain ways, just said, hey, whatever it is. How did that look like? How were those conversations when you were actually making those connections? What were some like key questions you would ask, or would the conversations with the people you connected, that they just give the information freely? Like, how did that
Mhm.
all look like?
There's a couple of different ways that this sort of happened. So while I didn't have a coach, one thing I did do was join a cohort in my area because there was a business that focused a lot on like new female entrepreneurs, and they launched a cohort which was 6 months of classes with experts in whatever their field was. It could be like taxes, contracts, marketing and branding, and they offered a lot of really good insights. So yeah, not a coach, but that was like a really good thing to do. And I know there are a lot of different resources in a lot of different areas that you could look into for these classes. I also did some classes through like the Department of like Economic Development in my area. So there's a lot of like educational resources out there for small businesses because a lot of counties, townships, whatever, really want to foster small businesses in their area. So they do a lot. There's like Launch Loudon where I am. Which is again another resource for helping businesses get off the ground. And then just in terms of sort of interpersonal like one-on-one relationships, there was a lot of not just figuring out the business of photography but figuring out business in general. So contracting was a big sort of blank spot in my mind. Like, I know you needed one, I know they're important, I couldn't read one and tell you if it was good or not. But I have a friend who does contracting for a living, and she was able to help me. So it doesn't even have to be just people who are business owners. Everyone has a skill set, and usually they're very happy to help a friend with their skill set. Because like if anyone ever asks me for like photography advice, I'm very excited to give it. Hence how I ended up here on this podcast. Yeah, so I think it's just you really do have to put yourself out there. Networking works in a variety of ways. It's not just getting new clients, because I know there are some vendors who like don't want to go to a networking event because they say, "Oh, well, if I'm a wedding photographer and this is just all different businesses, what will I get from that?" So it's not just finding clients, it's finding people who like you, who can refer you to other people or even just give you good advice. So all of my best clients have come from fostering these relationships, and from a lot of them I met at networking events.
Oh my goodness, so powerful, so true. Exactly how I've grown my business since COVID as well. Because you mentioned that COVID was kind of the spark of
Mhm.
getting this up and running. And I think that COVID was the year of 2020 clarity, right? A lot of people decided to really tap into self discovery, figuring out their purpose, and really starting to take action. Um, and networking was a huge thing that started, especially now. We had no choice if we wanted to run businesses, start businesses, or keep our businesses going. We now were forced to enter into this space of, virtual events, virtual Zoom meetings, Google Meets, podcasting
Mhm.
based, on screen, because we couldn't be in the same room. And it was just so powerful just for my journey alone. So to hear what you said about, connecting with these different groups. And I also believe and agree 100,000% what you said about that you don't want to just foster and nurture or create relationships with those in your industry. Because remember, a business, there's so many elements to it, whether it's financing, whether it's branding, whether it's marketing, whether it's, administrative stuff. We need someone filling in that area to kind of guide us. So we're going to have multiple people, but how do you get those people? Because I know they don't exist in like my home, they don't exist in my family. And, we share these things. And then, it's that referral process is golden for everyone when you
Mhm.
can really genuinely support someone, help someone, share your gifts, do your gifts, right? And showcase who you are, which that's another thing. Like, you have to put yourself out there. That you said great things is the only thing that can happen, right? If you do
Mhm.
nothing, then nothing happens. We know
Yeah.
that for a fact. Abigail, this has been absolutely great, great, great stuff. So I have another question for you. What challenges or setbacks have you faced, and how have they contributed to the growth as a leader?
Mhm. I think some of my greatest setbacks have been entirely my own fault. And by that I mean is mentally I am a worrier. I tend to overthink things. So when you have a business, you have to be very confident, and you have to be very mentally prepared for the fact that it's not, odds are it's not going to take off like right away. You hear those sort of like success stories of someone who started their small business and within a year they were like a millionaire. And so it's hard not to look at those stories and think, okay, well, then what am I doing wrong? Or can I just not do this? Am I in the wrong industry? And I didn't quit, but I did take a step back about a year into my business and go, I don't know if I can do this. And I got another 9 to 5 job, which is hard to have a business and a 9 to 5 and make both work, especially when my clients were all other businesses who all of their shoots were generally during the weekdays. So suddenly I didn't really have availability anymore. But I told myself, well, it's hard to make a living as a photographer, probably wasn't going to happen. So having the safety net of a corporate job is the way to go. And maybe I'll just have the photography, keep it as like a side hustle or like a hobby. And that lasted about 7 months.
Mm,
um, So my resume probably doesn't look good anymore, but I lasted at that job 7 months because for every single second that I was there, I was thinking about my business. I couldn't focus on that corporate job at all. I had no motivation to do it. It wasn't fair to me. It wasn't fair to the people I was working with for the company. And I realized that my true passion was photography. I loved the lifestyle of being a business owner. When I first tried going full time with my business, I was not mentally prepared for how hard it would be. I wasn't prepared to not know when the next paycheck was coming in or where the next client would be. Um, or to understand that like it's going to take time and it's going to take a lot of work. Like, cause those are things that is easy to understand in theory, but living was hard. But I just couldn't give up on it. And so after 7 months, I quit that job, which still so sorry about that, guys, if you're listening. Um, and I went back to my business full time and I just went all in this time. There was no more, maybe I can't do it. Maybe I'll get a 9 to 5. We'll see how this goes. Cause that's how I framed it the entire first year of being full time was, oh, I'm just going to give it a year to see how it goes.
Mm,
So instead of living like with a foot already out the door,
mm,
I decided to just I'm all in, and that has made the biggest difference because I've worked so much harder at fostering those connections. Friends have helped me out. So like they've seen how passionate I was, and they became excited for me, which is a huge thing. For example, and I got very lucky on this one of my friends from my master's now owns a really nice marketing agency. And they helped me with a recent rebrand and new website at a highly, highly, highly discounted rate. And that has also made the biggest difference for my business. So it's just stuff like that where like when you're all in, people will be all in for you.
important things. It doesn't surprise me just how amazing you're. Like, I love the way you share and articulate your story. And what I even love most about it is that there is intention behind what you did, right? What you did to get to where you're at today and to really be able to foster those relationships, because again, they're important.
Hmm.
I can't stress that enough. You never know who's going to bless you with something, even if they don't show the interest. Remember that it's your dream. And you also bring up another valid point about going into your first year and you having already a foot out the door because your words were that powerful that it actually forced you to go back to 9 to 5, right?
Hmm.
um so thank you for bringing that up, for being just so honest and transparent about it, because again, this is what people need to see and hear. It's not easy, but don't give up on yourself. Definitely take your passion when you can't sleep at night, when those ideas are coming at like 3 o'clock in the morning about how you can put this offer together, how you're gonna set up the stage for this photo shoot. Like, that is huge. That means that your passion is calling you to that purpose. So decisions have to be made. Totally love that. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to listen to our sponsors and we're going to actually talk about what you do and what is Flair all about, because I'm loving, loving that. So we'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world, globally, all across the country, high performers, titans of industry. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, this is where you want to be. Join the Connected Leaders Academy today. We are scaling massively. We want to welcome you in. Check me out. on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
Hello, hello. Welcome back. We are with Abigail, founder of Flaire Studios. So tell us, at what point, well, you said that you started Flaire. Was Flaire the original business idea, and then a year later you picked that right back up, or did you rebrand then too? So tell us how that all went.
It was a full rebrand, new name, new logo, new website. I've been trying to make sure everyone knows to go to Flair now, which actually has been not that hard. So that was good. But yeah, so I originally started off with Abigail Lague Photography, which was such a creative name. Um, every photographer around has their name as their business, which makes sense because a lot of them are really working on building that personal brand. And at the time when I started my business, I just looked around, saw what they were doing, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do it too. Um, and I did what a lot of new business people do, and that is I hired someone on Fiverr to make my logo and colors. And then I built a very low maintenance website on Squarespace. So it was very much the small business, quick startup within a week sort of package. And at the time, I was still very much experimenting with what I wanted to do. I thought I knew it all. I did not. So I was doing weddings, I was doing headshots, I was still sort of marketing myself as a branding photographer, but taking anything and everything and then showing all of that work. And it was a confusing mess. Even the branding that the Fiverr designer came up with was very much wedding photographer oriented. And so the more I got into commercial photography, the more I learned what my particular style was, and who I wanted to serve. I also started getting associate photographers that would assist me on shoots, second shoot for events, stuff like that. And the more I realized that Abigail Lague photography didn't really fit it, because I really wanted to focus on, I now have a team to help you guys out. My name as the business name didn't really work. And a wedding photography brand, which is, lots of beautiful, elegant scripts and light colors, doesn't work for someone who is focusing on working for businesses and brands and like corporate events and headshots. Like I wanted something that was a lot more confident and that would feel more professional and geared towards who my audience was. And that's when I met up with the friend I mentioned before who owns a marketing agency. And she said, yeah, you're right. That doesn't work at all. And I was like, okay, so good validation. What do we do? And she, with amazing designers on staff, came up with Flair. And it was beautiful and I loved it. It worked on multiple levels because Flair sort of harkens back to photography, like a lens flare or a flash. And then Flair also in the sense of creative flair, because something that really stuck with me is that a lot of people, when they imagine business-oriented photography, think of those really boring stock photos of a bunch of like business people around a table and they're just laughing at nothing while pointing at graphs that also mean nothing. And for me, and this sort of unintentionally became our motto, is that business doesn't have to mean boring, and everything we do with a touch of creative flair. And that's just to sort of really talk about how a brand shoot, whether it's like product photography, whether it's just highlighting a amazing corporate culture, should be tailored to who you guys are as a brand. Really tell your story, and it should be creative, because if people dismiss it as sort of stock imagery, it doesn't interest them at all, then what's the point of getting a custom photo shoot? So it needs to be creative and attention grabbing and really tell your story. And most of all, it shouldn't be boring because you're not boring, right? So that's sort of how we live, and it's sort of everything we do. Every photo that we take, we look at it and we say, okay, well, how can this be better? How can we make this stand out as not something you can Google right now and put on any business? And so that's what we do.
Awesome. And what are some of the questions that you ask your clients that kind of get them scratching their head like, oh, I haven't thought of that before. I haven't seen
Mhm.
it in that way.
Yeah, a lot of it is asking them what they want people to think when they see their photos. Because a lot of the times they are very goal oriented of, oh, we need a photo on this web page. So that's it. And there's also the idea though, like, what do you want people to feel? What are the emotions that need to be invoked? Because again, like stock photos, kind of, it's nothing. It's there. So it's really capturing those the emotional benefits of working for a brand, because very few brands can just market on functional benefits. So that's what we really like to do, because a lot of the times when people hire a photographer, again, it's just to fulfill a very specific need. But it's how do we go beyond that, beyond the, oh, we just need a photo of our product on a white background. So how can we bring the brand into every single photo?
Perfect. Great. Great stuff. And also tell us the difference between brand and marketing, because that's what our Q&A
Mhm.
collab was, because that was huge for people that may not know what the difference is. They think it's one and the same and it's just a logo or something, but give us some tips on that.
Yeah, so this is a very common thing that people confuse. And so when you think about it, I think it's also very, again, like sort of goal oriented there, where the brand is sort of like your business's personality. It's the way people perceive it. It's not just logo, font, colors. It's all of the stuff behind a brand, their mission, vision, and values that inform the logo, font, colors. And in terms of marketing, that is how you tell people who you're like, what your brand is. That's how you get that out into the world. So yeah, a lot of people do tend to confuse it. That also comes into play with photography, like commercial photography versus like branding photography. So brand photography is generally to highlight the corporate culture, to get people to understand who you are, while commercial photography is usually selling what it is that you do or what your products are. So there's a very thin line, a distinct line, but it's hard to see and often easy to get mixed up.
And what are some of the challenges that people face where they may have to go through a rebranding? And I know you told us your story, but give us maybe one rebrander that you help someone really kind of get their point across, and how did that make you feel once they reached their goals after?
Yeah. So one brand that I have worked with was it was a hairstylist who also like brought in her studio for a lot of it. Who she had had photos done before, but when she had them done, she didn't really know what her brand was. So because of that, the photos were very much geared towards just the photographer's personal style. And that is a hard thing to do when you're doing brand photography, because you can have a specific eye for certain things like preferences. You can like your photography should be yours, but also it's part of the brand's. So you shouldn't over develop it or edit it in a way that is very distinctly you and not the brand. So their photos had come out very warm, very almost like maternity or like wedding photo kind of vibes. So it didn't really feel like they were representing a business, and they weren't representing a business like theirs, where their whole thing was being much more edgy and like creative, because it felt very romantic. So
Mm.
their photos didn't work for them very long. They realized they didn't like it pretty quickly, and it wasn't the photographer's fault. Is because they didn't know what they were doing, because they were still learning who they were. And so after that, we were able to do a shoot that was like, instead of like environmental, was like a studio with like more fun lighting situations because that can make it feel more edgy, harsher contrast. And we were able to do something that really felt more them. And now it's like all over their website, their social media. And it's just good to help someone find that, because a photographic identity is very important, especially when you're a business that caters so much to like content creation and like trying to reach your clients that way. So yeah, it's been very validating. Also, just getting tagged in every photo is nice.
That it's always a blessing when you can, get that response to how they felt, and you taking them to that space of finally getting clarity on their identity and who they are
Mhm.
and how they serve and what they want people to feel, think every time they look at their logo or they look at some piece of content. It's so important when we are building a business. And yes, I wouldn't say wait till it gets perfect to start a business. I am totally for putting up a quick website in a
Mhm.
week, letting it flow just so you can get connected. Like, I don't want that to stop anyone, but definitely when you are building that momentum, it's definitely very important. If you can do it up front and save yourself some time, then yes, for sure. But I believe that it just has to, we have to dig a little deeper
Mhm.
when we're really creating a brand. Like when I built Bomb Global, I did not know that this was a brand. I was like, oh my God, okay, I'm just going to do building a leadership mindset. Like literally my logo changed about 3 times. I did my first two and I had to hand it off to someone to
Mhm.
finally say, hey, can you really put my vision together? And I want to glow because I want to go global, right? And BOMB is, the abbreviation, the acronym to building a leadership mindset. And I want it to be bold and I want it to have these colors and it really bring my personality. And you can see even my backdrop is
Mhm.
still my branding colors. It illuminates, it's the moon, but it still represents the globe shape, and the mission that we're on. So I love it. All amazing tips, all amazing stuff. What are you currently working on now, and how can people get a hold of you, Abigail?
Sure. So right now, I literally off screen have a studio set up. Um, I am doing some makeup photography. I recently had one of my most high profile shoots yet, which was really fun, which was an event at the Danish embassy, for a congressman and a governor. I won't just say names, but that was really fun. um, but yeah, so in terms of getting in touch with me, please feel free to go to the new amazing website that I didn't do. And that's how you know it's good, which is flair-studio.com. Flair spelled Flaire, because we don't like to compete using real words. So yeah, definitely feel free to reach out. Any questions? Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. And for your first interview on a podcast, you did absolutely amazing. Definitely shared your message. And it was so powerful, the different avenues that people are facing today with making decisions on branding, marketing, or even to take a chance and get started. Has been absolutely phenomenal. Definitely top notch. Thank you so much for your insights, for your energy that you bring. I can't wait to see your work, more of what you do, and it's it's just been awesome. And it we connected again through going into different networking spaces, and we connected because the person who put bring us together, right? We did a
Mhm.
collab. It was like 4 of us. We had a panel. We talked about it, but then we decided let's continue to nurture this relationship, right? We don't know where it's going. We don't know what we're gonna do, a couple
Yeah,
months from now or a
I
year
don't
from
think
now. But I
so.
definitely want to make sure I keep Abigail in my network and that we continue to grow together because that is what the power of community is, the power of connections are. And now I have someone to add to my resource list that if anyone's looking for a photographer in the DC area, I don't know if she travels, she'll let me know. And if she
No, I
does,
will.
then I can refer. Um, beyond that. So this is what it's all about. Thank you so much, Abigail, for everything. I'm going to give you a minute or so. You want to leave your final words with our audience and definitely connect with her.
Oh yeah. So I just want to say thank you so much for having me, and to anyone listening for listening through what I think were probably some rambles because it's my first podcast. There were some times when I felt, oh yeah, that was good, and other times where I'm like, I'm not even listening to myself anymore. But yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. This was such an amazing experience that I didn't expect to have. I definitely will now be looking to do it again at some point. But yeah, so just again, thank you so much. This was amazing.
You're absolutely welcome. And trust me, with our community, we have dozens of podcasts that we can definitely plug you in, get your word out. And you're just an amazing connection for anyone. So I am just delighted that, you know, we had this chat, that people are able to know who Abigail Lague is with flairstudio.com, flair-studio.com, and get connected with her, check her out, her work. She's absolutely amazing. And I just love your perception and your concept of really taking the time to be clear on your message and brand according to what your core values are and what you're really wanting to put out there. And it's a game changer. So thank you so much. Thank you so much to all of our listeners for listening to another episode and watching Building a Leadership Mindset. Have a great day. As I always say, make it count, and talk to you soon. Bye, guys. Thank you, Abigail.
Thank you.